Hi, everybody. Welcome to the C-Suite Strategy. Evaluate every move, scale beyond. And our topic of discussion today is Gen Z workforce and how millennium managers can unite two generations of success. Your go-to podcast on tech, cybersecurity, strategy, and growth. I am Prem Kumar. Yes. Today, we will explore how Gen Z workforce looks at success and how these two can be united. Two generations can be united on a podcast. A special welcome to all the Power of Knowing Forum podcast series members who are viewing this session. Our episode is 249 on LinkedIn Live today. We are honored to have Gauri Gopinathan, co-founder of Mind Mantra, NLP practitioner, emotional intelligence master coach, joining us today. Let's welcome our esteemed guest to the podcast and let's dive into the topic. Hi, Gauri. Welcome to our
Hi,
show.
hi, Prem.
How
Every
are you
time.
today?
All good, great.
Wonderful.
Here we are again with a nice.
We are on the second episode again, so we'll. It's been a honor to have you back. The speakers coming back to the podcast makes a lot of difference, and thanks for being part of the podcast speaker community of Power of Knowing Forum. It's a great honor to have you here. Uh,
Pleasures mine.
Thank you. Let's dive into the topic. I have taken some of the pointers which I wanted to understand on the current scenario,
Sure.
which what different, how are they different from millenniums in terms of work values and expectations?
Okay, see, every era or every generation is different from the other. So that is something which we have to accept. Okay. So the one major difference which I have identified, and I can tell it firsthand because I've been working with Gen Zs a lot. I train them a lot. I work with them a lot. That is one of
Mm,
my biggest audience, I would say. So few pointers I would say, which is very different, is the value system which they carry. Okay. I am not here to say that the millennials had a wrong value system or have a wrong value system, or the younger generation has a wrong value system. It's just different value system. You know, the emotion which they invest in work is different. And as we discuss, we I will be talking a lot about it, but just touching base on it, that we somehow we are the people who identify ourselves with the brand of our company. A lot of times, we feel proud to say I am we also, are very proud to say our college names,
mm,
telling I'm an university graduate, or I'm an IIT, and I'm in BHUN, JNU, and all these things, these come out beautifully. That's what millennials are. But what I have noticed in Gen Z is the emotion is more towards what they do rather than for whom they do. They're very loyal to what they are doing. But if you say that they own, sleep, drink, eat their brands as the organizations, no. And that actually is another reason where attrition is also, a little more than normal in today's generation. It's because, again, I am loyal to what I do. And if I'm getting another opportunity which helps me explore what I do a little more, I'm not going to be loyal to the brand, rather than I'm going to be loyal to what I'm doing to the community as such. So that is another thing, how emotionally connected they are. Both are, even millennials are, Gen Zs are. It's just there is a variation. And the third very important thing I would say is stress.
mm,
We millennials are, we run on stress. Actually, that is our booster. The more we are stressed, the more we perform. But that is completely opposite when it comes to Gen Z. And actually the late millennials also are similar to that only. You stress them and you will see that their work deteriorates. You cannot give them that pressure and put them in a pressure cooker and think that they will come out right and they will come out all cooked. No, they will come out all messed up. So, these are few differences I would say. I can keep going on and on, but majorly these three things: value system, the emotion which with they are connected, and the way stress works with them is totally different between these two generations. And we have the next bomb coming, that is Gen Alpha. That is another case altogether, a different talk for a different day, I would say.
Yeah, I know. uh, the work scenarios are changing in such a dramatic way. We are not able to see. It's like the middle class structure, right? You have upper middle class, lower middle class, and the middle class kind of. So you are stitched somewhere sandwiched between. You don't know where you belong to at the moment. For the millenniums, as I talk about, that's what I see when we are struck there.
True,
What
true.
are the most common myths millennium managers believe about Gen Zs, and how they can unlearn those things? Because we millennials once learned, we are hardbound, right? So, how do you
Exactly.
look at this pointer?
This is a very interesting question, I would say, because the myths, the list goes very long. That the
Hmm.
first thing
Hmm.
which I have heard all millennial managers and leaders talk about is very clearly or very bluntly, they say the Gen Z is not serious about what they are doing.
Hmm.
You know,
Okay. Hmm.
they don't have the go-getter attitude. Another thing which they say, these people are not committed to what they do. But actually, I would say it is the other way around completely. They are very serious about what they do, but in their own ways. Now, there
Hmm.
was one interaction, I would take an example here, which I was having with one of the leaders, and he was like, I called this chap at 9:30 p.m. and I wanted this file, and he told, I'm sorry, sir, I will only be able to give it to you by tomorrow. He's
Hmm.
not serious about what he's doing. And I had to go back and tell him that you are actually invading his private personal time. It's not that he cannot give you, but it is his personal time. So we have to understand this, that as millennials, we are famous, we are infamous to extend our work hours and bring our work home. Okay. We are infamous for spoiling our work life balance. Our next generation have learned it from us, and they're very clear to draw their boundaries, but they are not something that they're not serious about their work. No, they're very serious, they're very committed, and they have been born with a silver spoon, is something which I've heard all the managers talk. No, even if they have been born with the diamond spoon, I still say that they have their own struggles in their own way. They the way they look at, okay, the second thing is they do not communicate. The other thing which I've heard all leaders say, they do not communicate, they don't have sense of communication. We need to understand something, that they communicate in their own way. It is just a different way of communication. You could expect a paragraph full of explanation of what he or she has done all through the day, but he or she is someone who updates in one liners. Okay. Now, one very small example I'll give you, that there was one Gen Z chap who told, "Ma'am, I've spoken to this. I've spoke to this client. He told me this 3 or 4 times. I spoke to this client. He has not responded. Uh, I spoke to him yesterday, or I've something like that was going on. And after 2 or 3 days, I asked him, "Excuse me, have we talked to this client? Tell me that." And then he comes back saying, "I messaged, but he's not replying." And for a minute, it was like a pause, and I just bursted out laughing instead of getting angry. Because according to them, sending a message is talking to a person. According to us, talking to a person is when you pick up the phone, dial, and talk, or meet the person and talk. For them,
I'll take a very important lesson that I've learned in. I'm talking. You are going one step ahead. I'm taking one step behind what
yeah,
I've been. So I working for a organization, and that was a banking customer. So we went there, and I said, "Sir, I've sent you a mail." So he said, "Mail? I have not received." So I said, "Sir, it's been sent a week back." He goes to the mail room and says, "I have not received the mail." I was a little. We always thought mail means email default, right? So He said, I've not got the mail. The mail room is saying they did not get any mail from you. I said, I sent an email. So then be specific, no? He said, you sent an email. You said mail. So I was thinking you sent me a hard document. Okay. So I had to change saying to that banking customer thereafter, saying that when I talk to government organizations or any government things, I should be entities where I should say that it is either a mail, which is a courier, or a postal, this one, and email means this one, call means it is a, a phone call or a online call. So that difference I understood when I met this government customer. So what I take from you is one step ahead, right? Now what we are talking is, I sent a message. A message in what form is the question that is coming up now. Because traditional emailing itself is also dead now. Now nobody looks at an email. Send me a WhatsApp message, right? Or put a message on Teams, or maybe communicators, whatever they are using, whether it is Google communicators or anything. Now you will have to be very specific in what you're asking to the current generation, because they have so many platforms. They just think one platform is the constant way of response. You take that only as the primary source of interaction or communication. You take WhatsApp, you send a message on WhatsApp, they'll stick on to WhatsApp. You send it on Teams, they'll stick on to Teams. That's what I've seen. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Gauri.
See, I would say normally they don't stick on to one. That is the problem. We stick
Okay,
on to one.
okay, got it.
If it is email, we stick on to emails, and we expect everything to come as emails. And as you told, we all I mailed you. I emailed you. It has become I mailed you, and we think it's this. This is
Yeah.
the only way of communication. I have seen these chaps being sometimes messaging on WhatsApp, sometimes on Teams, and they expect us to, coordinate all that and accept as one, because for them it is an ecosystem, you know. So this idea of ecosystem, we are not that accepted on this ecosystem thought process. But because these guys are digitally more sound, I would say the generation is digitally more sound. They understand the ecosystem better, and that is why they use every aspect of the ecosystem. Instead of emailing, there's another thing which these chaps have started doing, is they will collaborate on a Google slide and they'll send me. So they are not sending me the presentation now. If I
Hmm.
look for an email with a presentation, I am not getting it. Why? Because they have
Okay.
made me a collaborator and they are doing whatever they have to do in that Google slides. I am supposed to go and visit that. So if
Hmm.
I, as a leader, am expecting him or her to send me a deck of presentation, and I look at my email and say, "Hey, Santosh, you haven't sent me the deck." Now Santosh has shared it on day one,
Hmm.
and he feels that I have been extremely transparent with Gauri. She knows how I'm progressing. Actually, if you look at it, it is actually way beautiful than
Yeah.
what we used to do. We will only send after it is done. Now, this chap has made me the collaborator from day one. I can see what he has done all through the day, how he's progressed. And they're the second thing which is very important with respect to communication, with respect to this generational differences, feedback. We used to run away from feedback. These
Hmm.
guys feed on the feedback, I would say. That is their energizer. If you don't give them a feedback for the whole day of performance, good job, they feel as if I did not recognize their work.
Hmm.
You and me used to get recognition only once a year,
Yeah.
only in
No,
our
I
presence.
think we have become feedback as fast as the fast food section, right? So you want to have something, you run to a fast food and have. Now there's something done, you need a feedback immediately. So that's
Immediately.
where I think we are running around at the moment. What now? I want to understand one pointer is from a leadership angle. Okay, now how has the leadership mindset evolved from Gen X to millennials and now to Gen Z. So, any pointers that we can take on that, Gauri?
Oh, lot of them, because I actually have there are very few Gen X people whom I have worked with, and I have trained them also, because I
Okay.
coach the CXOs and all, and millennial umpteen number of them, and then there's the Gen Z. There's something which has drastically changed is the
Hmm.
form of leadership from a very authoritative leadership which was there in Gen X. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
and that is why the Gen X, when they worked with millennials, they used to give them directions.
Hmm.
A lot of micromanagement used to happen. Okay,
Yeah.
I remember when I joined as a fresher, I was told exactly what and all I'm supposed to do from morning till
Hmm.
evening. I
Mm-hmm.
I was not using my brains, and if I do, I would be questioned for using that. Okay,
Yeah.
because the directions are given. You are like a horse with your sides covered, and you're supposed to only run in the direction which it is given. Micromanaging was a part of it. That is
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
used to happen. That is how millennials have been led in the beginning of their career. Slowly, these people have now become leaders, but
Hmm.
they evolved beautifully. I would take here the example of a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. So here, when the daughter-in-law became the mother-in-law, I mean, when the millennials became the leaders, they were not very pathetic mother-in-laws. They have evolved. They have evolved beautifully, but unfortunately, the agility hasn't come.
Okay.
The acceptance to change hasn't come that well, which has to come with Gen Z, you know. So we are a reformed version of leader, but still there is a scope, a very big scope, which has to be filled in. So authoritative doesn't work.
Okay.
Even in schools, if you have this is not just our mistake. Okay, even in schools, if you see, now the cane doesn't work. So these people
Yeah.
have come out of the school where cane was not used. We came out of the school where cane was the only way of communication. So you cannot whack them even at work.
Yeah.
You can collaborate with them, you can appreciate them. Okay, so
Hmm.
this appreciation is the past which millennials have to brush up and roll their sleeves and take in. That collaboration and appreciation are very, very important. Appreciation as a positive feedback, as I was telling before. Gen Z feeds on feedback. So appreciate them. At the same time, give them corrective measures immediately. Okay. But when you are giving them corrective measures, do not whack them, because that doesn't work. They have not been schooled that way. So you
Hmm.
cannot school them at work also in that one way. So that is something which I see as a difference from authoritative to collaborative is something which they have switched. And another thing is micromanaging. Actually, it is very good. Even today, if someone tells me, Gauri, morning 9 o'clock, you're supposed to do this, till 1
Hmm.
p.m. you're supposed to finish this, by 3 p.m. give me this output, and by 6 p.m. do this, I'll be very happy,
Hmm.
because you have taken my headache off my head, and now I know what I'm supposed to do. But with Gen Z, it is different. If you give them this, schedule, they are like, you are tying my wings and you're putting me into a jail, and now I cannot be creative. I cannot do it. I am not vibing, and I am not in the zone. Okay, so this vibing and all is something which I'm recently learning from them. So, ma'am, this is not vibing, and I'm like, okay, tell me what is vibing first. So I got it from them. So now I use it more often. Um, I'm not in the zone. So I will only do things when I'm in the zone. So it's not like they'll not do it. It is just that you have to let them know that this is supposed to be done. That's it. Do not micromanage them. Do not stand on their
No,
headache.
I think very important pointers there where we touched upon now with this Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z. I think the old school is still us. I think we are working the looking at AI and the way they think and the marketing pieces the ideas that the Gen Zs have. This is very different from what we used to have, right? And now earlier to get anything done, we had to learn, do anything. These guys come in and say they do something in the just show you something. The draft, at least they'll say this is what is my view. This is where I think I can change. This is where I can do. So there's a lot of learning. I will take one pointer. I don't know whether it is valid to say a Chinese name. Jack Ma was saying is that in one discussion, what he said is, when you are at certain age, you should work for the youngsters. So I was looking at it. Why was a pointer when somebody asked? He said the youngsters have so much of knowledge today because everything is in their fingertips. For us, it's still the old school where we say, I'll learn and do, I'll check, I'm not good at it, so I'll have to learn it. These guys don't say no. They don't take an answer for a no for an answer, and they can do it. That's what I felt. And with that, is the generational gap more between technology or emotional intelligence, is what I want to understand, Gauri. How is that playing a role here?
See, what you told is very beautiful because what I have noticed is millennials are perfectionists. Okay,
Hmm.
they've always been that way because they have been brought up that way. They have been tamed by or trained by Gen X, which was also a believer of perfection. Okay,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
we are a perfectionist. Until and unless something is not perfect, I will not show it to other people. Yeah, and that is why this attitude, I will learn and do it, I will come back to you kind of thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
The
Hmm.
current Gen Z is a generation which has been born in a generation which is full of agile working environment. Okay, this is something which we have to accept. If you look at the agile working environment, and I'm sure our audience who are from the IT world would completely agree. But I always mention this one thing, that agile working environment is not just for IT. For every place now, we have all started working on, let us prepare an MVP first and then reform on that and make a better version. So these
Yeah.
guys do it in every single thing what they are doing. Okay. They, as you rightly told, they will never come back and say, I don't know. They will take it, they will give you something which is not great, which is shitty, and they'll say, okay, we'll work, we'll bring it, will, and they want to hear that from you. Let's
Hmm.
collaborate and make it better. you know this is something, as I told, the first example which I was giving. Now this chap has made me the collaborator of the presentation from day one. So he wants me to give inputs
Hmm.
so that the best version comes out at the end.
Now that
So
guy is making you AI, I think.
yeah, exactly, in a way, yes, because they
Because
need
he's
to improve
making us
that.
to come up and say, ask the right questions, get the inputs that are needed. I think you cannot sit and say one day one review you'll say this is not good and this is where you had to improve and stuff. I've done something, give me feedback. Your
Yeah,
couple of pointers which we discussed in the session now is coming out in a different form for us. Like, one is that collaboration is what required, then you cannot push them too hard. Then the third is, I've done my work, you will have to review and come back on the same day, and I need feedback.
correct. Immediate.
So immediate.
I
Yeah.
will not wait till the end, and you are not supposed to wait till the end.
Yeah.
There
Agile
has
methodology.
there has been times when leaders have come back to me and told, when I give him corrections in a meeting, he says, sir, you only told me no. I
Hmm.
told, yeah, didn't you? Then the guy is like, how can he do that? He doesn't respect me, or she doesn't respect me or accept it. And then I have to tell them that the understanding of respect has changed.
Hmm.
you know so I respect you for what you have, not for what you are. you
Hmm.
know that is something which Gen Z has, and the way they respect is different. They would not fold their hands and stand and, with their heads down and say yes sir, and only then they are respecting. No, their way of respect is when they start vibing with you, is their way of giving you respect. When they are not getting awkward when you enter the room, is the best respect which you get from them.
Hmm.
A lot of times, especially in the manufacturing industry, I have seen this. In IT, somehow the leaders have understood that it is only this way or there is no way.
Okay.
This way or the highway guide. The the manufacturing industry still needs to loosen up. So a lot of times I have to push the leaders, you know. And the one thing which I always suggest to organizations is, when you are putting a training, or organizing a training, putting them together, make sure that you put both the generations.
Hmm.
Don't put only millennials in educating. Yes, okay, leadership, millennials going for that is understandable, but make sure that you're collaborating them at some places, so that they collaborate outside of work, so that they can take this energy back to the work. That is one, I would say, a magic mantra for um, every corporate who is finding this difficult. The millennials and the Gen Zs are not sinking in. The one thing which they should start doing is some activities or some trainings or something where you blend both of them, because I have had super fun doing this. When there's one millennial guy which I'll put with the chaps, and I'll make them team members, and somehow I choose Gen Z to be the leaders in these kind of things, activities. The younger ones will be the leaders, and the older ones have to follow. And this dynamic disaster which I do, I in the beginning of the session, becomes a very beautiful output by the end of the day. And this has resulted in success 99.99% of the times. So that would be one thing which I'll give as magic mantra. Start doing that in your organizations.
Very important point. Now, coming to the next point, how they look at challenges and opportunities is what I want to understand from you. Is what is one biggest challenge millennium managers face while leading Gen Zs? Because again, we are old school, Gen Zs are this one, and how can they turn it into an opportunity? Because it is a
Okay.
two-way communication. It's not a single communication, right? So it is a two-way communication. How do I learn and how do I get them understand what I?
Correct.
Yeah.
One very big challenge which the millennial managers have currently is to
Hmm.
bring the brand loyalty. As I was telling you, they love what they do. They don't love whom they do it for. This
Hmm.
is something which I have noticed. Uh, so what does this statement result in? Is in a lot of attrition rate. you know
Hmm.
I as a company, or we as a company, are training you and educating you as a resource. We expect you to be loyal with us for a while. Now
Hmm.
you learn everything, you find another opportunity, you go, and they don't even feel guilty about it, because that sense hasn't come into their head. Okay. Now this is the biggest pain point which I have. I think I would have spoken to umpteen number of leaders and found this out. So how, now my next challenge, as you beautifully told, is how do I make it into a profitable aspect or beneficial aspect. uh, how can you do, or how can you convert this, is when you start bringing them into discussions and decisions. Okay.
Hmm.
When you take the Gen Z as part of a discussion where decisions are taken, and when you make them feel that your decision matters, slowly the job starts mattering for them. Okay. So
Okay.
if you keep them away from the decision maker, I would say, Gen Z has this thought process that I am important for this organization. So as a millennial leader, I always feel that you should start involving them in smaller discussions, take few pointers from them, obviously
Hmm.
the ones which are going to work for your organization, and give them the credit, appreciate them and give them the credit, acknowledge that. If you are able to do that, you will be able to crack this, that they will not leave the organization fast, right? Because they have been valued. Okay.
Hmm.
The second thing which I see has become a very difficult thing for millennial leaders is the flexibility which is expected from the Gen Z. We are a little more stringent, we are not flexible. Okay. Now the Gen Z which has come to work is more flexible. Now there was one place where I had to sit with the higher management and bring them to senses to make them understand this, that it is not number of hours which you can count their commitment with, it is the amount of work, you know. So slowly the organizations, this punching in and punching out, has to slowly change. The managers cannot say, hey, why did you come at 11 o'clock and you're leaving at 5 o'clock? You have only keyed in 6 hours. The chap is more interested in asking you, boss, you asked me to complete this. I have met all my deadlines. I have completed everything. Why am I supposed to sit here? You know? So that has to.
I I took this pointer, Gauri, when there was a big debate when there was a 70 hour, 80 hour mess going around in the media, right? One of the leaders said 70 hours, the other leader said 80 hours and stuff. So I had somebody had put a post, and I accidentally saw that, and I got really irritated with the way you said it, right? Then I said you should count productivity with the number of work that you are doing. Now, if your work is accomplished for the day and there's a task that you had to do, you finished it, then your productivity is there already. You don't need to count how many hours. Now, after that, I sit at office, or you are giving me another task, and or I am trying to make another task which I can complete it today itself, is my call, right? So I wrote that, and you will not believe, people started pouring their comments saying that it has to be counted in terms of the uh, effective productive hours that are required, not the number of hours that you're sitting in office. Or it's not only office, when you're sitting at home also, it's not necessary that you are given a deadline, you have a time, you are given the deadline, and you should be delivering in your deadline. That's what they are looking at. Now, how do we look at the millennial leaders build a physiological safety from a Gen Z team? That's one thing that is very important with the
More
current
than the
scenario.
physiological safety, I would say the psychological safety is very important. You know,
Okay.
the physiological safety, somehow we have reached with all these terms and norms there. Posh is there, our
Mm,
HR policies are there. Luckily, from what it was 15, 20 years before, the physiological safety to an extent has come. You know,
okay.
cabs with security is available for night goers, and all of that is there.
Mm,
Uh, the women are more comfortable sitting next to men now and working than what they were 15 years, 20 years
mm,
before.
mm, mm.
And vice versa, even the men are okay sitting next to the lady power and working. Okay. But the psychological safety is something which is very important, you know, because I have seen the Gen Z is a little more vulnerable than what millennials were. Now, why has this happened is because, again, I would say they are not schooled in a very strict format, and the school which they come from, all the kids are supposed to participate in culturals. Okay. In our times, I remember we had to be the best of the best to be in the part of the cultural. There'll be only 50, 10 to 50 students who will be performing in a school
Mm.
which is of 1,000 kids.
Yeah,
Okay. Now here, the cultural event goes on for annual day function goes on from evening till late night. Why? Because all the 1,000 kids are doing something or the other.
yeah.
This inclusivity has been brought into them from schooling. So if you
Mm,
have to provide the psychological safety for the Gen Zs, you have to bring in transparency, inclusivity. Okay.
mm,
Because
mm.
they have been brought up with these kind of things. We were tortured, we were second thing which I would say, we were like four siblings, at times three siblings. So the scarcity of resources was always a common thing, from home,
Mm.
from school. In our labs, if three students get one computer, it is more than enough.
Yeah,
These Gen Z are coming from colleges and schools who have one system per head.
yeah.
Okay. So why am I going back to school and bringing from there is because it is not that they are acting weird, it is just that it's we millennials who created that for them, and from there they have come out. So
Yeah.
giving them inclusivity, giving them transparency, okay, giving them a clear feedback, environment where positive, negative, constructive feedback constantly keeps coming, and giving them a place where they can be vulnerable, but that vulnerability will not be used for any office politics. If a
Mm.
manager is able to do these four things successfully, he will be able to see that commitment from Gen Z, which he's craving to see for so long.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would. There are a lot of things, but these four things are bare minimum, which any manager should do.
Wonderful. Now, coming to the leadership habits that one should have from a, I will put it like this: what is one leadership habit from the millennial era that Gen Zs find, I'll say, outdated?
There are a lot, but one of the I would tell two main ones,
Okay.
which I have already mentioned, but I'll reiterate it here. Is one,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you looking at time as the key performance indicator rather
Mm-hmm.
than the quality. Okay,
Okay.
so a lot of managers don't. I'm not telling everyone does. I'm sure
Mm.
there'll be a lot of managers listening to this and they'll say, hey, I'm not doing this. Oh, you are already evolved. But I am talking about that population who still does, who still looks at the clock and says, hey, why are you late, or why are you leaving early? One
Mm.
is that. So the Gen Z hates that. And the second is micromanaging. And I am telling this because I've burnt my own hands.
Mm.
Because I did that mistake, and then I realized that no, this is not how they work. They know what they are good at. Okay, they
Mm.
have 10 places to learn also if they don't know. They have that kind of resources in their handheld devices itself. They don't even have to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So you should not micromanage them. And the other thing is, um, from authority, they would love to have trustworthiness than authoritativeness. Rather than micromanaging, believe in them, trust them. And if that rapport of trust is built, I think the change would be drastic. But they hate this micromanagement. You cannot give them a task and then after 2 hours say, hey, what is the status of the task? Or did you do this? Did you do that? Sir, you gave it to me, ma'am. I'll give
I'll
it to you.
take care.
Will you? I'll give it to you by 4 p.m.
Mm.
I have got chaps telling me that I told you I'll give it to you by 4 p.m. You are not supposed to ask me anything, you
Yeah.
know. So
I see that. I see that in many of the kids nowadays. You told me that you'll give me this on this day. I told you I'll give you this on this day. I'll get it done. That's all. So yeah,
yeah.
that's.
So
What are
see,
some ways that we can create a shared culture when generation values collide? So it's a.
shared culture is one of the that is the success mantra, I would say, for
Mm.
having, because this is one of the most powerful collaborations that we have. Millennials discipline and Gen Z's creativity, and you blend them, you have one of the strongest collaborations. And this is why this collaboration will actually bring success mainfolds, not even just twice or thrice, exponentially it will boost. And to do this, few things which we can do is first, as I was telling, make sure that you're collaborating them out of work. Somehow or the other, make sure that you're collaborating them out of work. The second thing is what I always suggest is for managers to start understanding the psychology of the Gen Z, as Dr. Ashish has actually put it in the message here also. So I am piggybacking on what he's telling, that the leaders currently have started exploring this, so they should explore it more to understand the psychology. At the same time, when Gen Zs are taken on board, this is something which we are yet to do, which we haven't done, which There are two organizations where I have started doing this, where I have put this on the table and they've accepted it, and we are working on a module for this. Is when Gen Zs are getting on board, okay, we also need to do a similar kind of a psychological understanding that this is the kind of people who will be leading you. So there can be times when you can feel that they are hovering over your head, okay, but it is your responsibility to go back and say in a very calm and professional way that, sir, I will do it, I am accountable, and I will perform. But yes, for the first 6 months they will be hovering because they haven't seen you perform. So
Hmm.
accepting that hoverness is also important. So leaders have started getting trained, yeah, but the Gen Z's also should be trained. So that is a step which we are supposed to take. The second thing is making transparency the second skin of working environment or teams is very, very important. Transparency in the way they are working, the way the responsibilities are distributed, okay, and transparency in the feedback format also, yeah.
Hmm.
So if
Hmm.
we bring in this transparency, then this collaboration will work really well.
Okay. So with this, I will take one more question, and then we, because of short of time, we will run through these comments that are coming in. Uh, I'll take two questions. How do
Yes.
you handle communication conflicts between Gen Z and a senior leader? Is the first question that I want to take. And in what ways can reverse mentoring be used to unify generations at workplace? Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. What I would say for the first question, when there is a conflict,
Hmm.
I always tell them that they should understand that they are different.
Okay.
The first step is accepting the difference. They are
Hmm.
not going to be the same. A millennial cannot become a Gen Z. There is a generational leap which he will have to take. A Gen Z, there are very few Gen Zs with millennial attitude. They are still there. Okay, but the major population of Gen Z, which is not from that attitude, cannot become that. You cannot expect that from them. You have to
Hmm.
accept them as they are, both the parties. So first is acceptance that they both are different. The second, which has to be brought into the sense, is both are different, but both are correct, both are not wrong. The problem currently is the struggle, the conflict comes because we are struggling, or we are putting all our efforts towards explaining how the other party is wrong. Rather, what should it go on, or what should our effort be into? How can I use that is different with him or her for my benefit or for our
Hmm.
benefit, for a shared goal? So, whenever there is a conflict, I always suggest making both the parties understand that they are not the same. So, they cannot expect the similar output. There are two different individuals. Second, now that you have accepted that you are different, understand what is positive in the other party. What can work for the current share goal that you have with you, and let us work on what is the positive rather than finding the negative. you know your Where your mind goes, your energy flows, we always say. So if your mind goes in finding on the negative of the other party, your energy will flow in making the environment negative. So you have to understand that there would be few positives. Understand on how can I work around that. So these are the few steps which I always suggest. If there is a constant conflict, then this conversation should happen. The super senior leaders should actually mitigate this issue in this particular sense. Don't ask each other to become like each other, they will not. It is the difference which makes you stronger, yeah. So that is something which answers, I think, your first question. Coming or hopping to your second question which you asked about mentoring. um, I have always seen that with this creative generation that we have called Gen Z, who cannot be chained. Okay. And I take the example of How to Train the Dragon here. There's a very beautiful movie. Every
Hmm.
manager should see that. You have to understand that you have a toothless, those all those chaps who are coming in. I don't even say kids because kids is not the right word. One of the person corrected me, so since then I've started calling them chaps. So these chaps who are coming in are like toothless. They are not aware of the strength which they carry. Okay. But you have to find different ways in which you can help them in training them and making them better and understanding their own strengths. Now there is no holy book or framework which which you can follow for every individual, because they all come with individual personalities. You will have to change your mentoring styles with different people. Few of them would want you to guide in the beginning, and then they would do they would become a free bird. But few of them would always feel that you just let me know what is to be done, I'll do my mistakes, be there to you know get pull me back when I'm falling, but let me fall. So a mentor is someone who actually does not take your hand and take you everywhere. Yeah, a father who teaches a child cycling is actually the best mentor, because he leaves and says, hey, go fall, I'll be there to dust you, put you back on the cycle, and help you repair the cycle. So that is how actually the mentors should be. Do not give them everything, ask them the right questions, uh, you know let them ponder, uh, give them the scope of doing mistakes, so that they can go ahead and build on that. And collaborative mentorship is very important. There are some things which they can mentor you on, like generative AI and ML. I am being trained by these young chaps on how to do that, and I'm very happy learning from them. And sometimes they're like, ma'am, what are you doing? Or sometimes they even call me a fool. I take it, okay, fine, okay, yes, I am a fool in this, come on now, teach me. So we co-mentor each other, so that is how we are evolving.
Very crucial pointers that we looked at. I would like to take some pointers, and after what we've got from the chat, we'll take some questions that have come on the chat, and then we'll summarize on the whole topic that we discussed.
Sure.
Let's bring up the questions that have been put on the chat.
Okay, there's one which says, what are some of the non-technical ways to bridge the
So, first
gaps in the
question
work?
that I see is
Uh,
from Pallavi,
yeah.
who's our Pallavi has been part of our podcasts, and she's come here twice, and I think so. This is the question that she's put. A whole lot of generation difference are there, and they are kind of scenario and behavioral strategies. That's what Pallavi has to say. Any pointer there, Gauri?
Okay, there is. I would actually, with just this statement, I would pick up something else which Pallavi has also put, that what are some of the non-technical ways to bridge the gap in the work mode of millennials. Now I'm clubbing these two questions, and I will try to throw some light.
Hmm.
Generation difference will be there because we come from two different generations, and this is actually like a summation of whatever we were talking for the past 40 minutes, I would say 40-50 minutes.
Yeah.
uh, that uh, these people, the Gen Z's, are someone who values work life balance, who have seen millennials struggle, their parents struggle with work life balance, and the kind of mental health issues they have gone through. These kids have seen their parents have their hands burnt, so they are very clear on drawing boundaries. Okay. So one of the things which you will see different is these guys choose their personal life as importantly as they would choose their work life. So you cannot expect them to work in their personal time, and at the same time they would not do their personal stuff at work.
Mm.
So
Mm.
that is something which we have to learn from them. Second is their awareness about how much are they valued at the organization. Okay. So we millennials have been uh, tamed or trained with by the Gen X, who were more of a dictatorial type, I would say. So for us, one appraisal per year would work. But if you would have recently seen, the organizations have understood this. Now there are few organizations with two appraisals, and there's something called 360-degree appraisal. All these are strategies which organizations have taken because they understand something that Gen Z hates this fact that appraisal is only once a year, and they value your knowledge, not your age. Okay, so you have to understand that they would value a 17-year-old having knowledge, but if you do not have the knowledge, even if you are 50, you would not see that respect coming to you. Okay, so if you want to gain the respect, share the right kind of knowledge with them. And I have seen very Gen Z's become extremely humble if you are able to contribute something to them which they don't know. Do not give them gyan, because that they get it from YouTube. I always tell that,
Yeah.
be a mentor, except when you don't know something, and they would value you more than you telling I know everything. Okay, so these are few behavioral differences which are there between Gen Z and millennials. And for that, what organizations or as individuals, as managers, what you should do is start giving them that scope, that they can come back with a mistake to you and say that, hey, listen, I did this wrong. Or even start giving them that scope that they can come back and give you corrective. I always say, walk the talk. So if you're telling that we are open for feedback, you should actually be open for feedback. If a chap is coming and telling, ma'am, you use this is a very old way of exhibiting data, and I feel you should use this, accept it. Only if you do that, tomorrow when you give him a feedback, he will accept it. Yeah. And few of the things which out of the thing which you can do to collaborate these people is push the millennials to drop down their ego chairs and sit with the with their team. There's one organization who does that really well. We have, and when I saw that, it was really great. The man just told, we don't
Mhm.
have cabin, we sit with them. So they have pulled the managers, put it in between Gen Z. So that is a very easy way of pushing them to work with each other. So there the managers have their desk, they also have an office which they don't use it at all. So that is one thing which organizations can do. Second, uh, try to take them for outings outside of work. That is very important. These two things, if you start doing, and obviously trainings for millennial leaders at the same time Gen Z workforce, separately and together. This is very, very important. These three things, if any organization does it, I feel we can be one of the most powerful collaborations that is there, and can bring in results, as I already told, exponential results. Yeah.
Let's bring up the next question. Okay, I'll get that question for you. Uh, this is the question that interesting question. Leaders
Yeah.
are analysis of physiology of Gen Z. Earlier, it has been my way or the highway. Now, a shift where top leaders are trying to understand the physiology. Yeah, that's a point that we have come.
Yeah. So I think we have spoken about this, and I would reiterate on what I told. Uh, that it is true, Mr. Ashish, Dr. Ashish, that we have started doing that recently. And yes, a lot of times I have got this question from a lot of people, that why only the millennial leaders are thinking about Gen Z's psychology. Why not the vice versa? It should have been the other way around. They are the
Mm.
ones who are coming, so they should know how the bosses work, rather than the boss understanding how the subordinates or the juniors psychology is. And there's where I have to break the mirage of a lot of people, that the word boss should go out of existence. That
Okay.
is the first step. That statement is wrong at that first step itself, that you're calling that manager as a boss. The moment you give them that boss, Even at home, when my husband is trying to put his idea on me, is when I start calling him okay boss.
Hmm.
So boss has a very negative vibe. We have to remove that word out of the existence.
Okay.
And it has always been that the seniors are more evolved and more mature. For them, understanding the psychology of the Gen Z will be much easier because we have that kind of experience to
Hmm.
understand. And we have that patience and perseverance. Yeah. Gen Z is like hot blood. They have just no gone. They think I will win the world, and they would. I'm not denying that. But
Yeah.
with that high energy, perseverance cannot come together, That maturity will take them a while. That two, three falls will be required for them to understand, okay, what is
Yeah.
my boss's psychology? So it
Right.
is our responsibility to understand. See, the horse will not understand what the rider, what my rider is going, or what is his psychology. But that combination only wins where the rider is able to understand the horse's psychology. So right now, these are those young horses who need to be, given the right direction and run the race with them. You cannot just say it is your responsibility, go run.
Yeah.
You have to sit with them, run with them. So we have the maturity, we have the perseverance, we have the patience, we have the experience, and that is the reason why I always say it is our responsibility more than the other parties.
I have two questions from Pallavi, which I think what are some of the non-technical ways bridge the gaps in work
I
by
think we have
millennials?
answered this in
Answered
multiple
that,
ways.
yes. And next is because of Gen AI, Gen Z, and Alphas are assured to permanent resources, and this facility is being onboarded with everything is inculcated in a very natural, reckless mindset where proactive action inputs are not pondered over pivotal enough. So, yeah.
I would say this is more of a statement,
Hmm.
rhetoric statement than a question.
Okay.
And generative AI is here to stay. Okay. So that is something I keep telling even to
I when you talk about AI, now how we had ATMs are not going to go off, right? Similarly, Google is not going to go off. You'll still search in Google. Generative AI is going to be there where you need quick answers and you get quick answers, but you need to go deep. You'll have to go back to Google itself to look at. Now, similar ways when you want huge cash, you have to go to the bank. You cannot take it from the ATM. So, these are the pointers. These are one enhancements that we should understand that there is some time that we are freeing for ourselves and by these innovations. Now, uh, we wanted quick answers. We have Gen AI saying you need a deep research. Gen AI does for you. So it gives you that flexibility, right? So
see.
technology is going to be there, and you don't ever think that it is a replacement. It's just an enablement. It's not a replacement. So
Exactly, and I think that is what as I was telling, do not. I a lot of times say to a lot of managers or teachers, rather, I will take a more context towards the teachers than the managers here, or trainers who give them what is there already online or on YouTube. I say, if you do that, you will fail. You will fail miserably because these guys are smarter in mining the information than you and me.
yeah.
I suggest you should always give them a little different or a more of an experiential learning and understanding, because facts are there. It is
Mm,
the experience which you can create. So yes, they have been taken on board that generative AI is there. It is a permanent resource. Gen Alpha is even more lethal than Gen Z actually. Very in I think next 5 years we would be talking about Gen Alpha. I am still
mm.
trying to decode their communication. I have a Gen Alpha at home. So actually, at my home is actually my area where I'm doing a lot of these researches, because I have a Gen X, I have a Gen X, I have two millennials, and then one Gen Z and one Gen Alpha at my place. And then when this combination communicates, so we have to understand generative AI will be there. It is our friend if used in the right way, and Gen Z knows that. there are times when they can rely on that more than our experience. It's okay, let their hands get burnt if it is going to get burnt. They'll come back to us and be there, not to say I told you, right, rather to say
Mm.
okay, now that we have understood, let us try to find out another way, so that is, I think, the right way of going ahead.
Wonderful, Gauri. So I'll just summarize on what we discussed. I put some pointers there. We started with pointers where we segmented things into setting the context, understanding the shift, where we looked at Gen Z, millennials, and what are the values, expectations, and how the millennium managers believe that Gen Zs have to look at, and these millennials have to look at unlearning some of the things. We spoke about generational technology gaps and emotional intelligence. Then we spoke about leadership challenges, where we spoke about biggest challenges in millennium managers leading Gen Zs, and what in turn they can learn from Gen Zs. Learning from us is one pointer. What we are learning from Gen Z is another pointer we spoke about. And then how psychological safety and Gen Zs are looking at, what is that they are looking, what is some of the habits that they have between millennium era people and Gen Zs, which are kind of outdated and we should look at, is what we spoke about. Then we spoke about differences between managing and monitoring across generations. That's one point that we had the limitation of time, so we had some more pointers and we are overboard by 2 minutes, and that's where we are cutting it short, and we may look at another session to continue for another pointer. So we'll look at it. It was a very interesting conversation that we had with real time examples, and I would like to tell the audience that there you could have heard some noises like children shouting and uh,
The
dogs
dogs
barking
barking.
around. They are part of the real scenario that we want to look at. We don't want to do anything as an edit and say this is
It
what
is
you.
the Gen Alpha's summer vacation time,
Yes,
and
yeah, yeah.
I have a very nice home office setup which I have. So the other streets have stopped them from playing. It is just I have been fighting for them to play in my street because I loved kids
No, that,
playing on the street. So
yeah,
yes,
that
that is them making noise. It's their evening times by six
we
till
are
nine.
interfering in their playtime and doing our podcast. So I would say
That
that.
is what I would say. Yes,
So with
because
that,
it is
yeah,
Chennai.
but
I kept my door a little open because it's very hot in Chennai.
yeah,
And yes, for the audience, I'm extremely sorry if you heard dogs barking and kids playing. It is their time, so they are playing. And I tried to make as much possible. That's why I spoke a little louder, but I'm extremely sorry for the dog barks and the kids playing. Actually, I'm not sorry for the kids playing for that matter.
yeah, that definitely is not right. So, with this, I think what we've done is we've streamlined this or streamed this podcast to YouTube, from LinkedIn to YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And hope you found this discussion valuable. And there's an important milestone that we are touching coming next Tuesday, which is going to be our next podcast, and we are talking about a very crucial pointer there, where we are talking about AI driven cyber wars, because how, with the cyber wars happening, what we see is regional conflicts are getting rewritten, and the rule book of defense also is getting rewritten, right? So we are talking about AI driven cyber wars and how regional conflicts are rewriting the rule book of cyber defense is the pointer that we'll talk on 20th 6:30 p.m. IST, and we have Dr. Ram Kumar who's joining us on this discussion. It's going to be one of the amazing sessions. That person comes in with a lot of experience in cyberspace and cyber security side, and we would like to look at, because that's our say milestone episode of 250 episodes that we are doing, and we would like to ask the viewers to help us, support us, though you have supported so far with the power of knowing forum being coming to this stage of running 250 episodes non-stop. That's an achievement because of the speakers, the use, the audience is what we would like to say. And with that, I would like to conclude the session. Thank you for joining us. And this, any pointer that you want to add before we close, Gauri, or we are good?
I would just say one statement that Gen Z is here to stay. Agile, the working in agile environment is here to stay. So, as millennials, we should start becoming more flexible, more accepting, and more aware of the mental health because the next generation is very much aware. So, let
Hmm.
us value our mental health and let us value our personal space as they do. I've learned that from them. So it is a learning curve, not just for them, but for us also. And let us be open to learning because that is the only way where we can become better than what we are. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Good day. And thank you, everyone. We would like to conclude this session here now. Thank you.